boys, I'm in a pickle. We usually start with somebody who went out in the early wave and played really well. I usually round it out with the guy who's on the top of the leaderboard at the end, but same guy. So let's just jump right into this. The fourth group out, 7:53, delayed for 10 minutes. That's 8:03, was Xander Schauffele. And I was having a little bit of deja vu here, KP, because we saw Xander run out to an early lead last year at LACC, have a historic round. We saw him run out to an early lead last week at Quail Hollow, and this was phenomenal. A 9 under 62, bogey-free, tons of threes on the card, and Xander has carved out a 3-shot lead.
Yeah, I think one of the common things you hear about Xander is, like from other pros, is, hey, you guys don't understand, you guys being the media and fans, you guys don't understand how good he is, right? I've heard Phil say that. I've heard Max Homa say that. I've heard, actually, Justin Thomas kind of alluded to it today, of like, dude, this guy's unbelievable. And what Thursday's round made me think of is almost like what those guys see all the time in practice rounds of like, hey, Xander made 9 birdies today. Xander made 11 birdies today. Xander made 7 birdies today. That is it. It almost, I'm not saying it was played with the intensity of a practice round. It felt like it was played with the freedom of a practice round, which is what you want at a major championship if you're one of the top contenders, right? So I thought it was obviously incredibly impressive, but like we've talked about, it's not about round 1 or round 2 with him. You know, I was looking at Data Golf's pressure stat earlier. So whenever he enters round 3 and 4 in the top 3 on the leaderboard, he performs a little worse than expected. So not worse than field average necessarily, but worse than you would expect him to play based on how he's playing. There's a bunch of different factors that kind of go into that. But he plays worse than expected when he's in that top 3 on Saturday and Sunday. And that's the thing to like prepare yourself for over the next 3 days.
That 62, Greg, ties the lowest round in men's major championship history. It was in vintage Xander style. He was inside the top 20 in each of the 4 strokes gained categories. So he was very well-rounded throughout the bag. This was as good as it gets.
Yes. You know, one thing that Kerry Haig and the PGA Championship always does is they allow good shots to be rewarded, and they tend to punish or try to punish poor shots. And when you don't hit any bad shots, there's not a whole lot of punishment going on. And that's what Xander did tee to green in round 1. I mean, 12 of 14 fairways is absolutely spectacular. And that allowed him to hit his numbers into greens and set himself up with a lot of birdie putts. He's constantly playing offense from that position. And then you look at what he did on the greens. I mean, this was his 3rd best putting performance of his entire career, gaining nearly 4.2 strokes putting. But the longest putt he made was 17 feet. So it was really consistent, solid putting in that, 10 to 15 foot range throughout the entire round, which is a testament to just his general skill that you were mentioning earlier, Kyle.
The morning wave was jam-packed, boys. Xander and Rory and Victor and all these other guys. So let's go to Rory McIlroy. And this was not a vintage Rory McIlroy round, KP. It was a 5 under 66 that featured a 3-hole birdie streak on his second 9, 5, 6, and 7 as he was wrapping up his round. But this didn't necessarily look like the Rory we normally see, did it?
No, it didn't. And before I forget, because I've been meaning to ask you this all day, or at least for the last couple hours, I wanted to ask you on HQ, but Crooked Joe Musso wouldn't let me get a question in. Would you rather have for the rest, if I gave you for the rest of the week, Rory and Xander or Scotty and Brooks, who are you taking?
Rory and Xander or Scotty and Brooks. I'm taking Rory and Xander. I've got 9 under and 5 under. And then 4 under and 4 under. I know one of them is Scotty. No, I'm taking Xander and Rory.
Really?
Yeah.
Greg?
I'm not. I'm taking Brooks and Scotty all day.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, do you like? There's this Xander.
You almost said, "Do you understand?"
I know my wife would have killed me because she hates that. That's like I know.
Now, children, gather around.
My shot collar zapped me on that one, and I caught myself.
It's great.
If Xander were to win this week, we'd be like, well, yeah, of course he should be a major champion. Like, I don't know. We'd look back in 10 years, and I think we would forget all the close calls, and all of that would go away.
Yeah, I mean that's how it works. Like that's Phil's story. I mean, think about Phil, right? Until he was 33 years old, that was his story. Oh, can't win. He can't win Now, I think Xander's is a little different in that it kind of extends to regular events as well. Phil won plenty of regular tour events, but you're totally right, Rick. And I think we're looking at this going forward, which is the only way to look at it. And it's impossible to look at it looking backwards until 5-10 years from now. So I don't know what to make of Xander. I don't know. I just know that Brooks is destructive and Scotty seems to win every tournament he tees it up at. I think I would take those two over Rory and Xander.
Before we get back to Rory, I had something I've been meaning to tell you guys that I forgot about. So I was walking back to the media center. I was walking past 17 green to 18 tee, and I heard a voice that seemed like it was coming from the heavens that just said,
Jim Nance?
No. It said, freaking first cut. And it came from above me. And I was like, where is that coming from? And I look up, and the top row of the grandstand behind 17 green, some guys giving me the wave. And I'm like, let's go. Like, that's so funny. And it sounded awesome. Like it was coming from the man upstairs. It was so good.
That's tremendous. To get back to the Rory round, 5 under 66, watch his group a little bit, didn't get out a ton with them, saw some of his front nine on the golf course. It was weird. You know, if you'd have told me 12 hours ago, Rory's going to finish 112th in strokes gained off the tee, which is, I think that's close to where he finished.
134.
Yeah.
134?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Last time I looked, he was 115 or something. I would have said he shot 73 and he's out. But I think the word that he used after the round was scrappy. And I thought that was apropos because he hit some, I don't know how it came across on TV, Greg, but when I was out there watching, he hit some really good, kind of goofy, sometimes flighted wedges that led to birdie opportunities. And that's the thing that I don't know, maybe you chalk that up to just a soft, easy golf course that he's dominated in the past, but that's the thing he hasn't done. I went back and looked, guys, at his opening rounds from 2015 to 2021. So that's 26 opening rounds. He missed the 2015 Open, and there wasn't a 2020 Open. He only had 5 opening rounds in the 60s. And in the last 3 years, so 10 majors, 2022, 23, and 24, he's had 5 opening rounds in the 60s. So he's had as many opening rounds in the 60s the last 3 years as he did the previous 7 before that, which is pretty crazy. And it's what we've always asked him to do. Hey, stay in it on a Thursday, right? Stay in it on the first 2 days. Your baseline is good enough that on Sunday you're going to be there. And that's what he did on Thursday. And I think that's really, I don't know if impressive is the right word, but I found it admirable that he kept himself in the tournament with his irons and with his short game to the point where you're like, he could find a flow and he could be the one shooting 62 on Friday or Saturday.
I wanted to read this because you mentioned the wedges, and Josh always puts a couple of notes in our rundown, producer Josh. And this is what he said about Rory. Wedges were really good. Hit the flag stick multiple times. Putter was good as well. And anytime you're talking about Rory McIlroy hitting the flag stick multiple times, which is true, that's a really good sign. And I don't think that's a result of the conditions. It's not a matter of just soft conditions. Rory's got his wedge play, his approach wedges starting online, which is how you hit the flagstick multiple times. And he's getting the distance right. And that's a sign of the technical work that he did with Butch Harmon a couple months ago, or after the Masters, or before the Masters, actually. And it's working. And there's real technique, real effort put into that. And he's leaning on it this week. And lastly, the short game. The short game was the thing in 2012 when he's winning at Kiowa, 2014 here. It's not like he was the best short game player in the world, but when he had the lead and he was cruising and he missed a green, I always remember feeling like, oh no, this is when it starts to go the other way. And he'd chip it to 2 feet. He'd knock it stiff. And that allows him this weekend to get one day where all of a sudden he's driving it like Rory drives it, a lot better than today, and that 66 turns into 64. And he runs away.
Well, I mean, you see signs of it, right? The thing about the Ryder Cup, the shot, the pitch shot he hit there last year that had Sepp Straka giggling like one of my kids. His short game can be really special, like really, really good. And he was, like producer Josh just threw in here, he was first in the field in strokes gained around the green. He chipped in on Thursday. I think it was on 7, I want to say, for birdie.
6.
Was it 6? Okay. And yeah, I thought that he did the things that we've been asking him to do. And I'm curious about how much of that was like, hey, I have confidence that I don't have to worry about the thing you've talked about with him, Greg, is like his swing speed is so great and his path is so steep that it can lead to so much spin and an inability to control it. So I'm curious about how much of his approach play is just confidence that the ball's not really going anywhere, or not like it usually would at a major championship, because that was true on Thursday. And it seemed like it led to more confident, precise approach shots from him than normal.
The tendency for Rory is to get a little underneath it. Club gets behind him. He starts it to the right and draws it. And then it's difficult to control that. So it draws too much or it doesn't draw enough. And you got the two-way miss. But when he's, has the club out in front of him the way he does now, all of a sudden it launches through the right window, it starts online and curves a whole lot less. And when the ball's curving less, that also helps with distance control. One of the reasons why Scottie Scheffler is so dialed in with his distance control is, he's got the club in front of him on the way down. It starts online. And that's what we're seeing out of Rory right now.
Well, I thought I was talking to Sean Zock, golf.com, earlier, and he made a great point that Rory hit what's the 256 hole, the par 3?
14.
He had a draw into that hole to a right pin. And it's not a shot that you hit if the ball is kind of jumping and running and bounding all over the place, right? But if it sticks, you can maybe afford more to hit that shot because you're not worried about it kind of running away from that pin. Normally you would have to hit a fade in there. Like you the draw would be too tiny of a landing spot to hit. And he's able to just kind of hit his stock shot more often because the ball isn't running and bounding and jumping all over the place. I thought that was an interesting point. I probably don't know enough about all of that to say whether that's true or not, but it seemed like a kind of an interesting point about this golf course. It's a little bit different than other major championships.
5 under 66. Sorry, Greg, I'm going to move us along.
Yeah, go ahead.
5 under 66 for Rory McIlroy.